Hello everyone. This module is on research in tourism, hospitality and culinary. It's actually a thesis introduction or a research method introduction. So the topics we will discuss would be research introduction, how to generate topics on research, and probably the standard formats that we need to do. So what are the outcomes? We need to apply the format of thesis to our research paper, and then at the end of this topic we also need to provide a research topic on what research you want to produce after this course. So what is research? It's actually a prefix with re, meaning to repeat or redo, and the root word search, which means to find or look, means to repeatedly look for something which has been in existence before. So it's a combination also of an art and science, or a disciplined art of gathering facts so as to inform action. Science because it's concerned about methods and produces throughout a research project. Art because of the project to be feasible, you have to have a neat roadmap to keep you on a feasible or doable path. It is important because it improves the quality of life, as you can see in this slide. It improves educational instruction and satisfied needs of humankind. So what does research do? For example, in marketing research or market research, helps companies to make projections and formulate appropriate strategies to ensure survival. A research instrument that is commonly used would be surveys. So as you can see here, it understands the need of the community and consumption habits. It enables the company to find all of these things. So here are some sample researches that have been done before that produces quite a very good outcome, or quite an information that is very important to everyone. For example, in this research by Harvard, it shows that why everyday physical activity is important according to a Harvard research. Here you can see it is entitled "What Keeps One at Night," wherein what are the personal worries of Filipinos and what are the financial worries of Filipinos. It is also here you can see that a research wherein it indicates that technical skills account for less than 15% of one's value in obtaining, keeping, or advancing in a job. More than 85% of job success is based on personal conduct and the ability to put others at ease. So it's like EQ, right? So there's this one book. It's called Mindless Eating: Why We Eat More Than We Think, by Brian Wansek. According to the book, based on his research, big plates make you eat more. So this is very helpful when you have a restaurant, right? Wherein you can serve bigger plates, and the dessert tastes better on fine china than in a paper plate. So these are some of his finding on his research, which he turned into a book. So in conducting a research, you should begin with a problem. A research problem, as defined here, or as indicated here, is a description of a difficulty or lack that needs to be solved. It's either a gap that exists between the real and the desired, or an inquiry between the principle and the practice. So your researches therefore answer a specific problem on a specific criteria, or a specific topic, or a specific field. In our case, it's tourism, culinary, and hospitality. We will seek a problem that we need to answer there. So, what are the three questions that we need to ask in doing a research? First, what is your motivation? Why are you doing this research? It's your why. What relevant interest or experience or expertise do you bring to bear on the subject? As you know, this might be your last year. As you know, research would be one of the last subjects that you would take before you graduate. So think of a subject that you've already taken before or that we've already discussed before, and create a topic out of that or a problem out of that. So technically, you're already one of the few who are very good or very experienced in tourism, hospitality, or culinary. So number three, what are you going to produce? How will this help you? How will this help the school? How will your research help your industry? How will your research help other researchers? So here in this slide, it would say it would tell you how to formulate a research problem. So number one is to find an interest of a broad subject area or a problem area. For example, you see a problem with customer service in restaurants, or as very relevant now, how are restaurants going to survive in this COVID? That's a broad topic. Then you try to narrow it down. Narrowing it down on the second phase to create it into a more plausible or feasible topic. So to narrow it down, you could probably narrow it down geographically, or maybe on some specific areas only. For example, your study can be conducted in a small barangay or a small city, or very specific or few restaurants only. So that's how you narrow it down. For example, my topic is about COVID effects on the hotel industry. How do I narrow it down? Then I'll probably just get a sample, or I would study only hotels in BGC, so that I could narrow it down and create it into a more plausible and a specific topic. Third is question the topics from several points of view. Has this topic been done already? Has this problem been solved already before? Maybe on a different setting, not on the same setting that I have. Can I do this topic in a few months wherein I need to submit the research paper? So those are the questions that you need to answer also. Will I be able to gather enough data to finish this topic? So the fourth would be define a rationale for your project. Why am I doing this topic? For who? Will this be useful for others or for the industry? So you try to find your purpose or rationale for your project. Next is, what is the goal of a statement of the problem? Statement of the problem is one of the parts that you will need to identify when conducting a research. So a statement of the problem is the ultimate goal of a problem statement. The goal for this is to transform a generalized problem, something that bothers you or perceived lack, into a targeted, well-defined problem. So in essence, targeting the problem will enable you to answer it in a more concise and definite manner, wherein you would somehow be a subject matter expert of that particular topic. So right now you're thinking, what topic or how would you approach your research? Broadly, we will discuss this more on our next topics. We have two types or two approaches in research. One is quantitative and qualitative. So what's the difference? Quantitative, as the name it denotes, is by counting and assessing numbers. So if you're doing a quantitative research, usually you describe, you infer, and resolve a problem using numbers. So there would be somewhat a statistical analysis on your research. So the emphasis is placed on collection of numerical data, the summary of those data, and the drawing of inferences from the data. So qualitative, on the other hand, is more descriptive. It's measuring and evaluating qualities. Uh, it's less of a number but more of describing something. So qualitative research, on the other hand, is based on words, feelings, emotions, sounds, and other non-numerical and unquantifiable elements. For example, describing an experience. That is a qualitative research. Quantitative is how many prefers this over that. Okay? We'll dwell more on that on the next topics. So, next that you need to do is to collect the data. How will I collect data if I'm going for quantitative analysis? So if you're doing quantitative analysis as stated here, the common data collection methods used are the following. But if you ask me, most of the quantitative methods, especially in social science, wherein our course falls under, is surveys. We do it by survey, especially now if there is no face-to-face and there's still a pandemic going on, then survey or online survey would be one of the most effective. You could also call your participant or responder through phone, or maybe try to email them also. So that's one. So this is the most common one in data collection method, the survey. In qualitative method, because you're asking somebody to describe, or your participants to describe something, therefore a survey may not be appropriate because your questions would be open-ended. It's not answerable by yes or no, or by numbers, or by degree of preference. Rather, you would need to get more information from them, and doing that, qualitative method should be data gathering should be, for example, interviews. You need to do an in-depth interview, or IDI as they call it, with the participant who is a subject matter expert. For example, you would get the preference of hotel managers for their leadership practices. You would need to interview them for you to get all of the details and the nitty-gritty of their technique for leadership, right? It cannot be answered just by yes or no. So this is the most common IDI. Another one that is being used commonly is a focus group discussion. So you would need to get, we dwell more on this, some of this. So focus group discussion in a summary is a small group of participants wherein you would ask them a specific question and they would answer. It's a group discussion. So you could also observe participants, or it's commonly called case analysis. So it could be done through action research, historical research, or philosophical research. So at the minimum, a research problem should, if you can see this part, the highlighted part, it should be able you to fill in gaps in the existing research literature. So there are literatures out there who would be discussing what customer service is, for example, but there would be little about customer service being done, for example, in BGC, restaurants in BGC. So you could do a research on that, for example. So it should be significant to contribute to an existing body of research, and then it leads to more research also, and so on and so forth here. Here in this slide, you would see some title examples of researches that has been done before. Let me dwell on the third point. For example, a topic would be investigating expectation from budget hotels, the case of Holiday Inn Express. See, we have more topics that we could discuss, especially those that are already done in school, or have been done in school by your fellow classmates. So a topic should have two variables. So what is a variable? A variable, two or more variables, I'm sorry. So what is a variable? Is an entity that can take on different values. So for example, an age can be considered a variable because it can take a different value. It may differ from each every other person. It can be the same, but most of the time it differs. So an attribute is a variable, is an entity rather, that can take on different values. So for example, age, oh sorry, this is typographic error, but age, for example, it could be whatever number, but if it is sex, it can be male or female, right? And if it's in agreement, you could have degrees. It could have strongly agree, disagree, neutral, if you're trying to get an agreement with something, for example. So those are attributes. So as I've said, normally a good topic should have two or more variables, but it would always have two types of variable, the independent and the dependent variable. So what's an independent variable? As you can see here in this slide, an independent variable is what you manipulate or nature manipulates. A treatment or program or cause. It's actually a cause. And then your dependent variable is what is affected by the independent variable. It is an effect. For example, the time and date of booking of a flight. So an independent variable, that is the independent variable, will affect the price of the flight, which is your dependent variable. So try to identify, if you're creating a topic, it should have a dependent and an independent variable. Okay, so we now go to literature review. So first thing that you should ask when creating a topic, do you have enough literature or study to support your research? Meaning, has there been at least a significant study or significant literature that has been done or has been written that is related to your topic that can support what you're claiming? Do you have access to this material? Because if not, then you would have a hard time defending your topic. Then is the type of citation that you're doing an APA citation? We'll dwell on that more, what APA is and how it could be done in future topics. So if you look at here, this is the research flowchart, or how you will approach or you would do your research. Some call this the research framework. So as we discussed a while ago, research problem is always the start of any research. Thinking of a problem seeking, as others will call it. So we look for a research problem. Then when you create your problem, then you will create your objective. Once you have your problem already, you would create your objective. After the objective, you would know if you would need to collect your data, how and when you can collect your data, and what are the hypotheses or your guesses on the outcomes of your research. Then you would have to, once you collect your data, for example, you did your survey, how would you analyze that data to get your results? Then you test your hypothesis on this level also, if you have a hypothesis. We'll discuss more on that. So once you get your analysis, once you collect your data, you get your results, you get your analysis, that's the time that you could conclude. You conclude based on your research objective or your problem. What did you find out when you collected your data and then you analyze your data? Once you get your conclusion, then you would be able to recommend based on your topic, based on your objective, and based on your problem. So if you look at this, it's somehow this is just a different diagram, but the outcome is the same on how I would do I would frame my research, or I would call this a thesis framework. So there are three stages wherein you need to do to finish your research. One is introduction, one is the method, and then last is the recommendation and discussion. You would normally hear this as the IMRAD format: the introduction, method, recommendation, and discussion. So first is, of course, your research topic. What topic would I be interested in? And then you get what would be my problem to get that topic, or to answer that topic. What would be my problem? And then most of the problems you would have sub-problems. So let's just assume that we have 3 sub-problems with my main problem. Now, to systematically do this, try to create an objective on each problem. So just turn your problem into an objective. For example, your problem is, I want to know how many restaurants here in BGC has survived the COVID, for example. Then I could turn that into an objective by saying, to discover how many restaurants are in BGC that survived the COVID, right? So here, I would try to determine what method am I going to use. Since I assume that this would be a numerical value, because I'm trying to count how many restaurants, then that would be quantitative analysis. So I'd be providing, if I'm doing a survey, I'd be providing a question that would answer my main objective. So this would be question, for example, question 1 and question 2 would answer my main objective. Objective 1 would be answered by question 3 and 4, and so on and so forth. That would be my method for constructing my survey. Then, after constructing my survey, I can now analyze my data, and after analyzing my data somewhere here, then I could already conclude based on my result on 1 and 2. Conclude number 2 based on my question 3 and 4, and so on and so forth. And then after my conclusion, I could provide my recommendation. Okay? So this is another framework. You can see here the IMRAD again. So I would start with a thesis topic, then my main problem, what is my objective. Based on my related literature, I would make a wild guess on this. I'll discuss more on this, the null and alternative hypothesis. Then method, you would see here what path that you need to take. Research design would be quantitative or qualitative. What is my sampling method? What is my coding instrument? How would I analyze my data? What is my statistical treatment or my data analysis, this part? And then, this is data gathering, I mean. And then, how would I analyze or tabulate those data that I got? Then by that, I could already conclude and recommend and provide probably an action plan also based on the recommendation. So,